Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Alero Edu and this is Sunrise.
I'm Ayo Makine. Good morning and welcome.
So, how was your week?
I have to start from Sunday. Eventful.
It took all of 30 minutes for him to tell us that his week was
Well,
eventful.
the normal thing people do is that default answer. How was your week? Fine. Nah, I got to think about it. Because I don't like to lie.
Well, I don't like the fine part, blanket fine.
Yeah, I mean.
Because some things happen in this country this week that actually have a lot of people scared.
Absolutely.
The armed robberies going on. So,
that one at Aja was definitely something
scary.
Straight out of the movies. I mean, I don't know how anyone can justify that.
At 2:30 in the afternoon.
That's the last time I heard about that. Well, something of that nature happening was in the 70s with Oyenusi, and was it in the 80s or 90s with Anini? Mm-hmm. Other than that, I do not recall.
Wow. They're getting brazen.
And, to imagine that security operatives weren't, on hand for that long.
Dear Ayo, the whole nation is still traumatized by what happened at the end of the NSAS protests.
Okay.
So the law enforcement, they are also part of this nation.
Absolutely.
And they are more traumatized by what happened to them personally. Their stations were burnt, their arms were carted away, so they're still in shock. But for how long are we all going to remain in shock and let hoodlums just run roughshod over us?
Well, if I'm going to answer that, quite honestly, I would say for as long as we delay the encouragement, the confidence building that we needed or we need to give the policemen. Because if they were traumatized and they have also seen, the officers and men have also seen that the protesters were not against them.
No,
they were actually on their part.
Yeah.
Then the people in authority haven't seen the need to do the needful for them, encouraging them, re-engineering their self-confidence and all of that. I remember at the end of the Federal Executive, was it a Federal Executive Council meeting or a meeting of Southwest leaders with the president, where Mr. Fashola briefed the media afterwards, and he was saying that we need to restore the confidence of policemen in the service of the nation.
Yeah.
Well, he would probably have a better answer, or perhaps the IG would have a better answer as to how that will be done. But that needs to be done.
Yes.
And it's not just for the police. It's also for the people, for the military, for all the people in what we call that security architecture we talked about last week. Everyone, absolutely, everyone in the intelligence community, in the arms and ammunition community, the entire gamut, of that. We need to restore confidence.
But let me tell you what this has put in our faces. It's put in our faces as a people. Okay, we don't like the police. They're not our friends, we say. But this has taught us and brought it to the fore that we really couldn't exist without the police, no matter how much we detest them. And we have learned to appreciate a bit more what they're doing, no matter how little it is what they're doing is. We do appreciate it now.
The truth, Alero, is we always appreciated what the police stood for or stands for. We always did, and we always do, and we always will. What the people were against was the bad governance over the years that led to the rot in the police system that built it up to the point that officers of the law were taking the law into their hands and using that law to oppress people. That is what the people were against.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of course, growing up, you would raise children to say, look, the police is coming. They would be afraid.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
do we have that kind of,
not even children, even adults.
Exactly.
You see a policeman, you straighten up immediately
and then,
behave yourself.
Certainly. Back in time, the Yorubas, they didn't identify the policeman with a gun-bearing individual. Okpa.
Yes.
Which is why they call them
That's not
Olokpa, the man who bore the baton.
That's right.
That is what, that was the worst. And there was a way they used it to stop criminals from running away. Back in time, they didn't have to beat anyone. They only need to throw into the fellow's leg, and the fellow will fall. They will arrest him, and that will be it. It's different now. So this confidence restoring thing is a journey, but it needs a lot of financial investment.
Indeed.
And I also remember, was it last year or earlier this year, the IG was in consultation, I think, with the Senate Committee or House of Reps Committee. It was saying that the percentage of money given to them from their budget was abysmal. How that is going to be done in this new...
I think that happens in every sector.
But for
I didn't say anything.
But for it to happen in security, it jeopardizes everything.
Well, thankfully, it seems that it has taken the front burner now. It's now a matter of priority. This restructuring of the police that people have been talking about. Looks like we're going to see it happen.
If we keep the burner hot.
We'll have to.
If we don't keep the burner hot?
We'll have to. We'll have no choice, because the matter of security is now one that, it's now top priority. Hot, urgent.
Which also leads to, the issue of security when it comes to moving around at daytime or at nighttime. Back in time, okay, I don't know if they still exist there now or even during the protests, but I remember that while I plied the third Mainland Bridge, from time to time, security officers were always there.
Yeah.
Are they still there now? I'm just asking.
I don't ply Third Mainland Bridge often anymore. And since you talk about Third Mainland Bridge, that's something else I wanted to talk about. We need an update regarding the repair work on the Third Mainland Bridge. It was supposed to be 3 months on the one hand, on one side, and then they swapped to the other side and fixed the other side.
Yeah.
But right now, we don't know what the position is, and I'm just hoping and praying that those who should know would come and update us, because when the day after, the day, because it was Friday midnight into Saturday morning, we had them in the studio with us on Sunrise, and we had agreed that every month they would come back to the studio and give all of us an update. Right now, we don't know what the position is. How long is it going to take? How far has the work gone? We don't know anything. And it is stressing Lagos. We now see the import of that bridge in the lives of those who live in Lagos.
The import is felt even more, and the situation is made worse because those other alternative road arteries are also looking for attention. So it makes it a little worse. And when the explanation given at some point was that, look, this road was supposed to have been fixed, but then COVID broke and they were not able to do it. At the same time, we can't delay work on the Third Mainland Bridge and all of that and all of that and all of that. But it still hasn't stopped people from moving around. It still hasn't stopped the thickness of issues that people have to contend with on the roads. It still hasn't removed the security scare when there is a traffic buildup. So all those issues.
Christmas is coming, so it's going to get even worse. And I'm sure those guys are going to get busier. And that is scary for those who live around, who use that particular artery.
So it's about time, really, that we found a way to get governments to talk to us about these things, because really, most of the time, the challenge is not whether or not government is doing anything. The challenge is, what is government doing?
They're not telling us.
We do not know. People are not telling us. And then when it comes to telling, please be prepared to also take questions. Be prepared for inquisition. The trust quotient is greatly depleted. So don't blame people when they don't seem to believe what government is doing at any given time. And that's what led to all of these protests. And by the way, this one also comes to my own mind. It's okay, it would seem like the NSAS protests has kind of doused for a while. But the question that I want to ask is, are we talking to the youth?
I want to think that we are, even though I've not seen any evidence of such happening. But apart from the fact that some of them had their bank accounts frozen in the course of the week,
I'm concerned about that, Alero, because hitherto we were quiet towards them. A lot of things were happening, and we continue to call them leaders of tomorrow. They've been hearing that since Tosin Jegede's album. Parents, listen to your children. We are the leaders of tomorrow. When was that done? Somewhere early 80s or thereabout? I don't even know how old Tosin Jegede is now, And is she a leader of that tomorrow, which is maybe like some 20, 30, 40 years down
Not
the line?
likely.
Exactly. So we need to engage them. We need to talk to them. We need to ensure that they are...
Aren't you one of them?
I don't think they'll put me in that category any longer. What do you think, Musti? I don't think they'll put me in that category any longer, because even the African Union and the United Nations says it's between ages 16 and 35 or 16 and 45, depending on which data you're looking at. So, excuse me.
Yeah, I got the bug too. Yeah. Okay, and then we heard last night that pump price of petrol has gone up again. Maybe I should just keep quiet about that, because it's the first thing we're going to deal with in the body of today's program. But of course, when that news broke, all kinds of posts were flying all over the place. Again? Do they want to kill us? How should we afford it when our salaries are not increasing? Questions, 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 questions. Maybe some of them will be answered in the body of today's program.
I really hope so too, because the earlier we hear from government, the better. Okay, so when it happened recently and the NLC, kind of intervened, I remember the feedback we got from government was, look, we already made it clear. We have deregulated the downstream sector completely.
Yeah.
Diesel has been deregulated for a good number of years. Kerosene has been deregulated, so it's market determined. Petrol needs to be completely deregulated, so that whatever money we plow into that, we can plow into some of the more, productive venture.
Areas.
That is what we have heard. But the fact that the engagement is not sustained makes it difficult for people to relate. I remember, and Lero, you would as well, and perhaps a number of people would. During the Babangida government, it was about one of the most engaging governments I have experienced. Why? The mass mobilization for social engineering
MAMSA.
and reformation, MAMSA, was always in your face.
Jerry Ghana.
Yes, always in your face, always pushing one narrative or the other out, always in your face. Andrew, don't check out, don't make noise, behave yourself, all those things always in your face. So we need...
But they were not sustained.
Exactly.
Andrews have been checking out.
The efforts to sustain MAMSA was its transmutation into the National Orientation Agency,
which has been very...
So the fact that we do not have that engagement sustained would definitely give room for a lot of guesswork. People are just going to work if the desirable is not available, the available is desirable. So this issue of fake news that government is trying to fight, you can't fight fake news when there is no genuine news. Give us genuine news so that people don't look for what doesn't exist.
Yes, our menu. We're going to be looking at first at the new increase in depot price of fuel.
And then we will also talk about that very prominent one, this free prepaid meter distribution that the government had talked about.
And then we're going to look at how to solve the import and export challenge. That's with reference to the closed borders.
Which is a money spinner for any Nigerian who is interested right now. And then a global top 10 teacher.
Wow. That should make very interesting conversation as well. And then we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment. And I think she's a she.
Well,
Oh,
I'm not.
Is he a he? Yes, I am right. She's a she. And I would implore you to stay with us till the end of today's program because she is a very interesting she. She acts, she sings, she produces movies, she does everything. And she does everything well.
As a she.
It's a she. It's a she. So you can be part of the program.
Yes, just join. Of course, the information is right there on your screen how you can do that. Send us a mail, sunrise@channelstv.com, or, of course, the Twitter handle is right there in your face.
We'll be right back to start the program in earnest. Thank you for staying with us. Now let's get the show started. Yesterday, the Petroleum Products Marketing Company, a subsidiary of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, announced an increase in the ex-depot price of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, from 147 naira 67 kobo to 155 naira and 17 kobo. Wow. That came as a shock to a lot of Nigerians.
Absolutely.
Because salaries are not going up.
Everything.
Prices are skyrocketing by the day, and with Christmas just 5 weeks away, we're going to see prices just keep skyrocketing.
Especially at this time of the year.
So where do we go from here? We have joining us from our studios in Abuja an energy expert, Mr. Olabode Shomi. Good morning, Mr. Shomi. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we have heard all kinds of rumors. What exactly is going on in Abuja at the moment regarding this new price price hike in petroleum products, PMS?
I think, to be fair, the way we heard it is probably the way everybody else heard it. And what seems to be happening in Abuja is really not any different from what's happening in Lagos. But to speak to the issues, which is basically the issues surrounding the fuel hike, one of the things that we are facing and the reality of the challenges that we're experiencing today is the fact that for a number of decades, Nigeria has been experiencing a subsidy on petroleum products. And during the COVID exercise, owing to the financial situation of the government, the subsidies were removed. The implication of that is that the government and the economy, the industry as it were, the products have been subject to the forces of demand and supply. What that means, or what that is supposed to mean in reality, is that if there's a push for increase as a result of demand and the interplay of demand and supply forces, the prices will go up. And if there's a pull, the prices could go down. In the light of that, it will appear that there has been a push on the prices and the prices has gone up. So that is the reality that is on ground at the moment.
How much would refining our own crude help our situation? I suppose this is all happening because we're importing almost every drop of petrol that we use in this country. If we were refining ourselves, how much would this help?
No, definitely it will help in many multiplier, in many effects. To put it in perspective, at the moment, we take the crude oil, we ship it, somebody refines it, they ship it back to us, and then we'll buy it. So basically, there's a cost that goes with the transportation to and fro, and of course, there's also a cost for the refining. All of those costs are ultimately borne by one person, the final consumer, that is the man on the street. What it means in simple terms is that if we were to refine in-house in the country, we're going to eliminate the cost of shipping, but more importantly, we're also going to provide jobs for a few people who will have, in the traditional African sense, one or two other three people that are depending upon them. But having said that, when things like subsidies are removed from a particular product or a particular service, one of the responsibilities of government, especially when it is government subsidy, is that there should be certain cushion effects along the path, which is supposed to, as the word implies, cushion the effect of these prices. It will be difficult to know what particular policies or processes or activities were put in place to cushion the effects. It is true, yes, that there's a need for refining. Even nations that don't have any oil have a number of refineries, such that they just buy crude oil, refine it, and sell to their population. So, in reality, Nigeria did not actually start this way. For a number of years, we had crude, and we were manufacturing, and we were processing and refining more petrol and diesel than we needed. But over the years, owing to the imperfections and limitations with government-run systems, the refineries went catamount. A lot of efforts were put into, and monies too, were put into getting the refineries revamped, but it did not quite work out. So at the moment, we have, like everybody else knows, the Dangote refinery, which is built to come up in about a year and a half or two from now. But what is probably more important is that there should be some other refineries that will be in place in scattered places across the nation, such that at a point in time, the issue of refining does not have to be localized to one player or a few players, but rather it will be something that will be ubiquitous to everywhere within the nation. I think that should be the way to go in terms of refining.
Well, Mr. Shomi, that conversation has been ongoing for a while. A number of people have been talking about what you would call modular refineries and all of that. But I guess we're still waiting because, government had talked about giving some licenses to a few people to take off. And part of the complaint that we have had is that it's very, very capital intensive, and consequently that there's a challenge there. Now, with that, would you call that a misstep on the part of government to not put those, what you call those incentives in place, and then get these, at least see some movement in the direction of local refining, even if it is by this local the private sector operators? You see that as a misstep, or it's something that just comes with the territory?
No, I won't call it as a misstep. On the contrary, my thinking and my clear thoughts will be that there hasn't been enough interrogation and introspection into the activities concerning modular refining. Modular refining in reality is technically not any different from any other refining. But what has happened is that the processes for people to get the licenses for that, I think we will need the media, the CSOs, and interested stakeholders to shed more, to beam some light on that, so that Nigerians can understand what is exactly happening there. Yes, it is capital intensive, but it should be understood like anything in all of these engineering related industries, whether it is even works, whether it is power, they are not, the monies involved are not what you pick from the back pocket or from a savings account. There is syndicated financing options. There is foreign options for financing all these projects. There are a number of options available. What is important is for you to get your commercials right, get your pricing in a properly structured manner. It is also important for you to have a proper business plan, to have the people that you are going to supply and get your products to have a certain formula for mitigating risk.
Okay.
Once you have all of those things
yes,
in place,
just a moment.
Financing that will come.
Yes, just a moment. My question is along the line of, okay, this is coming. We all knew it would get to this. When the NNPC GMD made the announcement that fuel subsidy was gone for good, and he also said it that as crude oil price increases, there is the likelihood that the fuel price will also increase across board. He made that clear ab initio. But there is also that reference to some form of cushioning on the part of maybe the government or whoever could, to cushion the effect of the fuel price increase on the people. I'm just saying that because that didn't happen, I mean, there isn't anything now, because, I mean, if there was, the first time the increase happened, I mean, people would probably have felt it. I don't know if anyone could say that. Is that kind of thing likely to happen again? And that's why I'm asking if it was a misstep to have done something to make sure that, okay, we can have some hope that indeed this effect will not be too strong on the people.
Well, thank you, and thanks for the clarity. When the GMD said they had measures for cushioning, I think that statement should have been interrogated further. Because when you say measures for cushioning, what he understood by cushioning may be a different message to what the people on the street appreciate as cushioning. So when the government, in practical terms, said they had measures to ensure that the price hike will be cushioned so that it won't have galloping inflation and the expected effects, that should have been interrogated further. And some of the details should have been looked at, and that should have formed conversations within the media, within radio stations, in terms of how this can impact society and the options that are available. So I'm sorry to say, but at this time, maybe some of the fault may have been on the part of the media, who didn't go into more details by actually asking questions on the realities of those statements. Because sometimes statements can actually be political, or they can appear in phantom. And it is also our responsibilities to ensure that some of what could have been political will be dissected properly in a language that the common man can understand.
Does it also need to take the media to recognize and identify the fact that every fuel price increase has had crunching economic effect on the people? Does it take the media for government to know that and consequently think along that line? Because every time there has been a fuel price increase, there has been reactions from the people. There has been strikes. There has been riots in some cases. You would also remember in 2012, when the fuel price increase happened, the federal government had a taste of the people with what we call the Occupy Nigeria protests, which was as a result of a fuel price increase. So if that kind of thing had been in the plan or in the thinking of government, does it need the media or anyone to try to mitigate that?
Well, definitely what you have said, they are obvious things. I mean, they are, to use the proverbial cliche, they are visible to the blind. However, a responsible society is a responsibility of all. It's not just a responsibility of government. There are many reasons why government may be ineffective in doing the right thing. And I'm not trying to hold brief for government. But the original concept behind CSOs or non-governmental organizations is because all over the world, there are gaps owing to bureaucracies, owing to inefficiencies within a particular government system that society needs. And it is those things that those NGOs try to achieve, and that's why they are called non-governmental organizations, and that's why they don't pay taxes. But that is just talking about government in terms of a broad spectrum at the moment. When the Nigerian government made this effort, there will obviously be certain things in their thinking before that led to the processes of increase in price. Sometimes that thinking needs to be x-rayed to understand what they are looking at. And it is on the basis of understanding their own thinking, and you can put it side by side, the realities, that we can make informed judgment. Because at this time, we can only see the effect of things, and we can only look at the effects in terms of the economy. So there definitely must have been something informing their thinking. What is the responsibility of every other stakeholder is to ensure that all the factors are put on the table so that the man on the street can make an informed judgment. It is also true that there's a responsibility of government to ensure that there is effective communication along all the communication channels. Government has multiple avenues for them to ensure proper communication to the people. But again, that may be an inefficiency in the government structure. The key thing, the point I'm trying to make at the end of all of this is that there will definitely be some thinking. That thinking may not have been thoroughly thought through. That thinking may even be faulty. But until you know what the thinking is, you cannot actually know why they came up with this. But what we can know and what we can assume on the surface of what is happening is the fact that we are currently in a regime that is without subsidies, and these are some of the effects of subsidies. And what we believe is that it is in the interest of government itself to ensure that there is no galloping inflation in the nation. It is in the interest of government itself to ensure that the people are not restive. It is in the interest of government itself to ensure that there are no riots in the street owing to hardship in the lives of people. And it is also in our own interest that these things do not happen and we have a peaceful nation. So how do we merge this interest that everybody has? I think that will be the question for everybody. So there's definitely must be an interrogation into the thinking of government to know what economic palliatives, what economic principles they have in mind to ensure that the increase in fuel price does not automatically lead to galloping inflation in the nation. I think that is also important to get from government. And with that, we can, go more into the details of the governance and the details of the economic issues.
Okay, Mr. Shome, I want us to look at this issue of refineries a bit more. Before now, we had been told that we didn't have local refineries because the sector was regulated. Now, earlier this year, the sector was deregulated, but we don't see companies and people falling over themselves to get licenses to open refineries. How would you explain that?
Well, let me try and correct a perception misnomer, is that there's no sector that is not regulated. There are just differences in regulation. The media, which has probably the highest number of private people, is regulated. The banking sector is regulated. Telecoms, which has no government player, is also regulated. So the regulation is a part of the free capital market enterprise, and regulation has its role. But what you have had is a case of where there are maybe only government players, which has been what has happened before in the case of the refinery. Like I said, government has said that there should be more players. It is the responsibility of all of us who are also stakeholders in the industry to interrogate what is happening there. Maybe the DPR, who is the government body with the that is incumbent upon them to grant licenses, need to explain what is happening. They need to explain what incentives are being given to local people so that they can have refineries. Because they are the ones, that's where the the rubber touches the road. So they need to give more explanation to Nigerians. What we can do is that on the basis of the data and the information they give, we can analyze it and look at what are best practices and best principles. But in terms of the realities that is happening on the ground, in terms of the government decisions that are taking place, it is the government players and the man who makes the decision that owes it to Nigerians to let us know exactly what is happening. And that, I believe, is where the media comes in. The media has the right, the media has the moral authority to be able to badge on their door, to be able to knock on their door, to be able to ask them tough questions, and so that they will elicit the correct information whether they want to or not. And it is that process that ensures a robust engagement within the industry. Let it be understood that every industry that is working very well, that is following the proper forces of demand and supply, has very strong media intervention. And that is not peculiar to Nigeria, that is all over the world. So the media needs to be asked, the government needs to be asked by the media, by civil society, on the realities of what is happening. They need to be asked on why the details of people getting licenses are not available. They need to be asked what options, because these are early stages, what financial cushions are available, what palliatives are available for Nigerians who want to engage as entrepreneurs in those areas. Those are questions that need to be asked them. And unfortunately, I'm not in government in that light and may not be able to provide those details.
We heard of a modular refinery in Edo State. please correct me if I am wrong. Maybe I heard wrong, and we heard that that would probably come on stream by the end of this year.
Well, it's not just Edo State. There was even also another option in Rivers, based on information available to me. And there was another one in Ogun East, somewhere around Ogun Waterside. And there probably may be other options depending on whether they have made applications for licenses within the DPR, who is the government regulator, the government regulator and the agency responsible for granting these licenses. But the challenge is not even the modular refinery, because the modular refinery is such that it is limited in capacity, usually for a particular area. You can actually have a modular refinery the size of this house, the size of this room. Those are options that are available, and it could produce only diesel. Those are
Mr.
options.
Shomi,
but that
I beg your pardon. Can you just hold that thought? We'll just go on a short break, come back and continue this conversation. Welcome back. Now, Mr. Shomi, could you just round up your thoughts about the modular refineries springing up around the country?
Thank you very much. The modular refineries springing up around the country is a welcome development, and it's another way of showing that the industry has capacity to grow. It should be encouraged. More people should be encouraged to get into it. Yes, it's a technical industry, but the operations of it is not technical. It's going to follow all the basic principles of operating another plant. So anybody who has an interest in the industry should be encouraged to go into it. Government will also be asked what they are doing to ensure that people get into it. You can have modular refineries anywhere in the country, from the arid regions of Borno to Sokoto to Lokoja. Anyway, you can really have, and you can have modular refineries that can take care of a local government. You can have one that can take care of a state. So people should be encouraged to get into it. That is definitely should be the message coming from this area.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olabode Shomi, an energy expert. Sunrise continues now with a look at, this talk about the meters, the prepaid meters that government is planning to roll out or has been rolling out. Ayo.
It's actually from one energy topic to another energy topic.
Another type of energy.
Because let's take it this way. A few weeks ago, the federal government commenced the distribution of 6 million prepaid electricity meters to Nigerians through that announcement, the National Mass Metering Program, and then NMMP. Now, the program was launched in Ikeja, in Eko, Disco, Kaduna, and Kano, those franchise areas. Of course, on the one hand, government says it is free. On the other hand, we hear the discos are saying that the mode of recouping the cost of the meter would be communicated to them later. Free. Costs.
Later.
Okay, so a good number of issues to chew on there, but let's very quickly let you meet our panelists. Mr. Mahmoud Suleiman is Head Strategy and Business Excellence, Kaduna Electric. He joins us virtually. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Mr. Felix Folwe also joins us virtually as well. Mr. Felix Folwe, Head Corporate Communications, Ikeja Electric. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Abubakar Yusuf, Director, Department of Customer Relations in Kano. Kano Disco joins us in our Kano studio. Thank you for joining us, as well as Barrister Sunday Odunton, Executive Director, Research and Advocacy, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors. He joins us here in our studio in Lagos. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Let's begin with you. Most certainly, there's been that massive talk about metering. It's always been a concern. Some people have actually even compared, the electricity sector to the telecommunications sector. I buy my phones, okay? I put your SIM in my phone, you give me service, case closed. But I can't own a meter, and here I am, I'm supposed to pay for the meter. But give us a general overview of what this whole metering issue is about.
Thank you very much. First of all, with due respect, you cannot compare the telecom industry with the electricity industry. When you look at your, you can buy a Samsung or an iPhone, just buy your SIM card and just slot it in. In the case of electricity, the meters come in a kind of a different way because it has to be programmed, calibrated to a specific owner or customer and an address and a specific area. Unlike cars, the meter you see in Ikeja having similar function as the one in Kano may be different in make with similar specification, that's it, performing similar functions. So it is not something you can just buy off the shelf.
Which is another problem that a number of people have said.
In other developed countries, in England, where I lived for a long time, you don't even go and buy prepaid meter off the shelf or postpaid meter off the shelf. The thing are simply made available, which is the issue that I think we should focus on. My own role here is just to give a general overview of metering. My colleagues in Kano, Kaduna and Ikeja will tell you specific things about what they are doing and what is expected. Now, this mass metering is a welcome development for us as DISCOs. We commend the federal government on things like this because all Nigerian households need to be metered. The moment we are able to have meters in every single home in this country, then people will be able to measure what they consume. Then there will no more be argument on the so-called crazy billing. Not all bills are crazy. Some are, many are not. We have cases of overbilling, which are the crazy billing. We have cases of underbilling. But estimated billing is evil. If only we
agree with you on
we
that.
get to a point where we don't have to have estimated billing in Nigeria. Nigeria will be better for it.
Perhaps
so
the
that's
issue,
the reason for this mass metering.
Perhaps the issue, you know, one of the challenges started with what you talked about, the diversity of the different kinds of technology that people have to deploy for these meters. If the meter they use in Kano is different from the meters they use in Lagos, in Ikeja, if those meters are different and they all generate or supply electricity to people, then in itself that seems to be a problem.
It is not a problem. I've seen some of your media organization, channels included, using innocent meters, and you use Kia, you also see use Toyota Prado. Those three vehicles are meant to take you from one destination to another. Those three vehicles have gear, whether it's automatic transmission or manual. They have engine. They have similar roles to play in conveying people from point A to B. Same thing with your gadgets there, your cameras and so on. They are not the same. Some people use Sony, while some people use other models. However,
the same thing with phones, Mr. Duton. Some people use Samsung, some use 4G phones, some
but I'm
use
saying that
5G
it's
phones.
not like buying your SIM card, buying your phone and just slotting it in. That's you going to buy off the shelf.
It's the same thing. You can't compare cars.
You cannot buy if you do not know and you are not linked to my ICT back-end technology. If you go and buy a meter off the shelf, it simply will not work. That's what I'm saying.
Which now underscores that shouldn't it be the DISCOs providing the meters for the people, since people can buy what they want?
Let us face the issue. The issue is that the federal government currently have an initiative for reasons that they know. Even our own regulator, well, we must commend them. NAC, they know what is going on in the industry. And the federal government have decided this initiative of having mass metering for all Nigerians. I can tell you a lot of things are still going on in the background. At the back of the curtain, there are a lot of discussions going on to make sure that the system works. For that reason, too, I will also commend our investors. These are people you may not know or see regularly, but they meet all the time with the federal government, CBN, everybody, to ensure that every single Nigerian household are metered. Okay. The modalities, the clarity that are required, the complexity that are involved, because it takes a long time to produce. Meters are not just produced on the shelf. It's not these people are picking it up on the shelf.
All right, Mr.
So let's give them a chance. Let's allow this thing to work. What matters to Nigerians is for them to have meters. How, where do we start, when, how do we do it? Leave that matter to the federal government of Nigeria. For once, let's begin to trust our government. Let them do their own job.
Yes,
but don't blame the discourse.
You said you don't want us to. You don't want to engage on the responsibilities of the discourse, Mr.
My wife don't get belly.
You say you don't want to be engaged on issues. Let's talk to the discourse themselves now. Mr. Mahmoud Suleiman, Head Strategy and Business Excellence, joins us virtually. He is of Kaduna Electric. Thank you, Mr. Suleiman, for joining us this morning. Well, the conversation is unending, Mr. Suleiman. So let me begin with you. So on the one hand, we hear it is free. On the other hand, we hear you have to you recoup a cost. Please educate us.
Okay, thank you very much. And my name is Dr. Mahmoud Suleiman from Kaduna Electric, as you rightly said. I would also want to commend the federal government for this wonderful initiative of supporting the discourse to ensure that we're able to 100% meet all our customers. You know, metering is actually the responsibility of the distribution company in every sphere, if you look at it. But the challenge all along has been the access to capital, you know, which is the CapEx, and which is core in the distribution business. Electricity distribution, particularly in Nigeria, is highly capital intensive because of the kind of network we've inherited, which we need to revamp. And because it's a fully regulated industry, every recovery within the industry is provided for by the regulator. In the MITO model, there's a revenue requirement for each aspect of our activity. And metering, being one of the core responsibility, requires sufficient capital in the model. You know, for me as an investor or an operator to be able to recover the investment I'm able to make. So one of the challenges all along is there hasn't been sufficient provision for metering in our revenue requirement. That's one. And then we as investors, access to capital has been very, very difficult because of the nature of the business and the environment we're operating in. You know, we can talk about that a little later, but just responding straight to your question, whether these meters are free or not. As they say, even the air is not free. Nothing is free in life. You know, there's no free lunch, even in Freetown. We wouldn't say that it's free. And just to clear the grounds, we've not received specific orders on how the recovery of these meters are going to be. Because definitely it's someone that is bringing in money, and that money would have to be recovered one way or the other. The natural cause for recovery within the MITO environment is for discos to be allowed a reasonable capex, which they invest, and that capex includes metering, and then it will be recovered from tariffs over time, and it's going to be depreciated over a number of years. The MITO model we operate today depreciates our capex over a 35-year period. So basically, from an accounting point of view, is an asset that would be depreciated over time and would be paid. So naturally, it will be paid in the tariffs that the consumers would pay over time. So you can't say that is entirely free. But again, as you know, based on the MAP regulation that we have, you know, meters are expected to be deployed by meter asset providers, and then there's going to be a line charge that would recoup that investment over a period of 10 years. We are awaiting a final communication on whether it's the MAP model, because now the capex is coming not from the MAPs, it's coming from the government, right? In terms of intervention support to the discos. So it's a capex to the discos, but that capital is not coming free. It's coming at almost 10%, and the discos would have to pay from month one in terms of the interest, and then there's a moratorium period before we start paying the principal amount. So basically, it's an asset that would have to be paid, and a final communication from the regulator is expected on how those capex is going to be recovered, but it's looking more likely that it's going to be recovered from the capital requirements or capital provision for the discourse. The capex for Kaduna.
Well, just a moment.
Sorry.
Just a moment. Essentially, you're saying that the federal government is going to bill you discos for the 6 million meters that are to be distributed.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Follier, a number of people are also asking the same question. Maybe to make it a little clearer, you know, where does Ikeja Electric stand here? Because, you know, so many people are wondering why they should bear the cost of a meter they do not own.
Thank you very much. Good morning. So my colleague from Kano has given very fundamental insight on how what the cost recovery will entail. But what this program is all about is there is no cost attached to it for installation of meters. So for this particular program, customers are not required to pay upfront for meters. What we have said in some of the reports that you've seen is that, okay, of course, like my colleague in Kaduna said, the cost recovery modalities will be explained, will be defined later. As we speak right now, customers do not have to pay upfront to get their meters installed. For Ikeja, we have launched the program, and then we are starting with a pilot scheme in our Oshodi business unit. Now, you understand the objectives for this is to increase to bridge the metering gap, and also to eliminate estimated bills. So what we have done because you know that estimated billing is another very big emotive issue for Nigerians. So for us in Ikeja, the focus now will be on cushioning the effect of the service-based tariff. So what we are doing is we will focus what we have received for the first phase. This is the first phase, is about 106,701 meters. Now, definitely, those meters are not enough to go around our customers. But what we are going to do is our strategy is going to ensure a seamless metering exercise for our customers. So what we're doing is we're focusing on customers who are impacted by the service-based tariff. Now, don't forget that there are 5 bands in the service-based tariffs. It's only 3 of the bands, the ones that are on A, B, C, that are affected. The D and E are not affected. So what we're doing is we're focusing on the customers, and then we start our metering for the customers on band A, and then we cascade down. The total amount of meters earmarked for this project is about 6 million. What we have received so far, what has been allocated so far is about 1 million, and out of the 1 million, Ikeja has 106 meters. So we're hoping that subsequently more meters will be rolled out, and then we'll cascade across all our network.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Mr. Abubakar Yusuf, you are of the Kano Disco. How many meters were allocated to your disco? And have you seen them?
Yeah.
Mr. Yusuf?
Good morning. Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Basically, yeah, I can hear you. 87,747 meters were allocated to Kano Disco under phase 0 of this national mass metering program. And these meters were supposed to be installed in all our franchise area, Kano, Katsina, and Jigawa states. Having received this allocation, we have prepared a robust deployment plan where we come up with the detailed list of customers that will benefit from these meters. And at the same time, also we have commenced the back-end processes for the installations of these meters, which mainly comprises of the KYC, that is Know Your Customer, despite the fact that we have completed our customer enumeration, where we have updated our database with the right information that we need for our customers. But at the same time, also we need to really go back and reconfirm this information, especially the load assessment of our customers, so that we'll know the appropriate meter type that's supposed to be installed by each customer. At the same time, also we need to also do some kind of light upgrade, especially on our downstream network, that is the LT line, where we have some little challenges in some areas that we need to really upgrade, because metering can only be supported fully when you have a proper and standard network. So we still have some few places to really work on that. At the same time, also we have immediately after the launching of this program, that is last month, 30th October, we have commenced installation of these meters in some selected areas. And at the same time, also back-end preparation is still ongoing. And we hope these meters will go around based on allocation of 7,747 meters under this phase 0. What our customer needs to know is that we cannot be able to provide meters for all customers within this phase 0, because we have over 1 million customers in our database. Then it has to be based on our prepaid meter deployment plan, and we are going to really stick to that, so that at the end of the day, each and every customer in our network will get metered, so that the issue of estimated billing will be a history. I know it is one of the big challenges, not only for Kano Disco and for all other discos in Nigeria.
Can you just hold your thought? We need to go on a short break at this time. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. We were with Mr. Yusuf, who is in our studio in Kano. Mr. Yusuf, isn't it about time that discos worked on their infrastructure such that any person who does not have a meter will not have power, so that we stop all this estimated billing business and people who don't have any meters actually enjoy power?
And yeah.
Did you hear me, Mr. Yusuf?
No, I didn't hear you. Please, can you repeat again?
I said, isn't it time that discos also did some work on their systems so that anybody who does not have a meter will not have power? It's to be, I mean, it doesn't seem like rocket science to me, that the only way you can get power supply from us as a disco is if it passes through a meter.
So I didn't get you well, but I think you are asking of that customers can only get electricity through a meter.
The way it's supposed to be?
No. If you look at the current database of all the discos in terms of metered and unmetered customers, the ratio in some discos is 50-50, in some discos is 30-70. So if you say that you have to deprive customers from getting electricity because they don't have meters, that will not be good. And since there is already an approved and established way of giving customers bill based on estimation as approved by the regulator, I think customer can still go ahead and enjoy supply even if they are not metered. But just to correct you, I think the order on not giving electricity to unmetered customer is applicable to only MD customers. There was a clear directive from the regulator that any MD customer that is enjoying supply without a meter should not even pay for the services. So for the non-MD categories, we'll still go ahead and give them supply, while we'll issue them with estimated billing based on the approved methodology from the regulator. At the same time, also the capping order is in place also, where the amount of energy that you are expected to bill an unmetered customer is capped based on so many parameters that was used by the regulator to really arrive at the capped amount or capped unit for these customers. Well, basically, the essence of the entire national mass metering programs is to ensure that each and every customer get a meter. And the program will last for almost 3 years. So customer has to exercise patience, especially the discos are having their own meter deployment plan, whereby they are going to stick to that, and each and every customer will get metered at the end of the program. It's really a laudable initiative, and we really commend federal government for bringing this program, so that at least the outcry from our customers in terms of estimated billing will be a history. I believe this is one of the biggest area of complaint that we receive from our customers, estimated billing on a daily basis. Despite the fact that even if you bill a customer below what he consumed, provided it's an estimation, that customer will complain and that customer will cry. We believe this program will really solve this issue of estimated billing and complaint from our customers.
Well, give us an idea, Mr. Yusuf, of the number of the shortfall of electricity consumers that you have in your company that do not have meters compared to the 7,000 meters that has been given to you that you're going to be disbursing. What is the shortfall after you get that 7,000?
No, it's not 7,000. It's 87,747 meters. Well, the metering gap for Kano Disco is almost around 400,000 customers for now. And by the time we receive this at 7,000 meters, if you do the calculations, we still have over 300,000 unmetered customers in our database. And at the same time, also, we have potential or new connections. You know, Kano, Katsina, and Jigawa will still having more houses coming off, more industries coming off, and we need to also meter them. So the metering gap is still wide, comparing with the number of meters allocated to Kano Disco. As I said earlier, this is phase 0. In subsequent phases, another allocation of meters will be made to all the discos. And at the end of the day, the goal, the objective of this scheme is to meter each and every customer. 6 million meters were reserved for this scheme. And I believe by the time we exhausted these 6 million meters, even if we cannot be able to really meter 100% all customers, there will be another allocations to ensure that all customers are metered in all the distribution companies in Nigeria.
Okay.
Mr. Fulwe, let's look at new buildings coming up. New buildings, new factories, whatever. Will they get meters as they're starting, I mean, as people are moving into those houses or as they're starting operation? Or they're going to be build an estimate until such a time that you can provide meters for them?
Okay, so there's a standard process for new buildings and new establishments that are coming up. The process is that they need to get an account
before you connect you.
So they need to get accounts created for them so that they can begin to get supply. Now, don't forget that there's a huge demand for meters across the network. So, and then we are rolling these meters out in batches. Ideally, what should happen is as soon as this new buildings or new establishment structures are coming up, they should be metered. But because the meters right now are not available to go around, they also have to apply for the meters. So when they apply for the meters, they will be metered along in line with the due process of after registration. Yes.
Well, while still sticking with you for a bit, let's backtrack a little, Mr. Ofulwe. Well, there are a number of people, a number of your customers in Lagos who are wondering, wait, when am I going to get my meters? For instance, there is that understanding you put out that once you pay, in 10 days, you get your meter. But then there are those who have paid as far back as, 2-3 months in some cases. They still do not have their meters. This is kind of like a two-edged question. Are they part of this mass metering program? If they are, well, maybe good. If not, what happens? What happened to that 10-day bank, and how are they going to be addressed going forward?
All right, let me take your second question first. There is a commitment right now on our part to ensure that we meter all the customers that have paid a stipulated time frame of, in the next, say, 4 weeks, we should have metered all our customers who have paid for their meter. Now, like we said before, some of the challenges that have been encountered are challenges that have affected every other institution or business across the country. Of course, you know, in the last few months of this pandemic, we've had challenges, and it has also affected the major providers. That has stalled, affected the pace of metering. The intention, like I would state every other time, is that we want to meter all our customers. However, the challenges that we've had, economic challenges, even physical challenges of people moving around, the lockdown, everything contributed to the slow down of the pace of metering. So what we're doing now is there's a backlog, which we're trying to ramp up, and as quickly as possible, we're trying to ensure that we meter all the customers that are affected by the challenges that have affected our pace.
In parentheses, Mr. Afule, how many meters were allocated to Ikeja Disco?
106,701 meters. So like I stated before, we are going to allocate, we're going to distribute these meters. You know, we have 6 business units. So we're going to allocate these meters across our 6 business units.
What's the shortfall that you are expecting to cover within the shortest possible time?
Let's just say right now we have about 50-50. You know, so we have about 50% metered customers, or about 50% metered customers. So we are expecting that in the next 3 years, we should have completed metering the present or metered customers, the existing or metered customers that we have. But don't forget, we also have a fast developing network. So we are hoping that as they come in, by that time, we'll be able to meet the demand of the customers.
Dr. Suleiman, how many meters were allocated to Kaduna Disco?
Kaduna Disco is allocated around 86,000 meters under the phase 0 deployment plan. And in terms of our metering gap, we have roughly around 400,000 customers unmetered at the moment, out of the around 600,000 customers that we have on our database. So under the phase 0, we hope to deploy the 86,000 over the next 3 to 4 months. After that, obviously, we get to phase 1, and a lot more should be covered. And in terms of the deployment plan for Kaduna, as you know, we're running a service-based tariff now, and customers that are on higher tariff bands and unmetered are the ones that we're giving priority under the phase 0. And we're looking at end-to-end meter deployment on those priority feeders. And just to clarify, at the point of deployment, those meters are going to be free to the customers, but obviously would have to be recovered from the tariffs.
Okay, let me. Okay.
Somebody is saying here, Monchi is saying that there's need for us to be innovative, and there's no reason why we cannot have a meter in which you just insert a chip. So there can be generic meters, whether it's for Ikeja Disco or for Kaduna Disco. The meters are all the same, but you have to go to your disco to get a chip that you insert into the meter before it can work.
What we are talking about is very similar to that. What I said was that as at where we are today, I want Nigerians to know and to remember that the power sector reform that started in 2002, 2003, privatized in 2013, is a very long journey. That journey of reform, you cannot correct the adversity of 65 years in 7 years. So we are going to get to a point where even as a customer of Ikeja or somebody who lives in Ikeja, a time is coming in Nigeria when you will wake up and make a phone call to Kaduna Disco and say you want Kaduna Disco, even though you are in Ikeja. Scottish Power is in Scotland. You can live in Kent, southeast of England, and be using Scottish Power just by a phone call. Even though you are within another disco, the system will be robust so that you can switch to another service provider.
You can pause.
Again, yeah, you can pause. again, this is going to take some time for it to be achievable. So what we should be concentrating on now, Our interest at DISCO is for every single household to be metered, for every distribution transformer to be metered, so that if I meter the transformer that serves this complex and other houses on this channel avenue, and all houses here are metered, the day I check that meter by the transformer and I see a difference or a shortfall, more energy has gone out, payment has reduced, then I have to come to all the premises to check for bypass. People need to know the link between metering and bypass.
Just a moment. Yes, exactly.
Prepaid meters are
just a moment. Just a moment.
On
that,
country.
you know, one of the conversations that have come out also on this matter is that of this bypass, but which you call energy theft or electricity theft.
Part of
How does that happen? And so that people, because people may not even know that, you know, that's what they're doing.
We have caught a very big man in Ikeja GRA who bypassed most of his split air conditioner in his house.
Ouch.
We did the same thing in Loring, we did the same thing at Kano, and the last one we did was at a place called Rayview, the GRA at Jos. Not minding another that we discovered in 2017 in Parakot. Is nationwide. Theft is so common. So energy theft is very, very common. People that do it are ordinary people. Some could have had some knowledge in the industry before, not just ex-NEPA staff alone or current staff alone. I'm not absolving them. They are Nigerians. Until you give me access to angels and malaikas, who I'm sure are honest 100%. Anything short of that, you are still dealing with Nigerians. And people don't like hearing that we love theft so much. People like to have things free of charge. Nigerians don't like paying for energy. Majority. There are very good Nigerians that are willing to pay. That's why, give them meters. If Nigerians have meters, we'll come back and deal with the thieves. But the thieves are high and mighty, and poor people, the welders do it, battery chargers do it, great men that we all applaud.
So how does it happen?
They just go to the back of the meter. Sometimes they do it beyond their ceiling, their POP, somewhere in the house. They connect the one coming from the pole direct. Their appliances, some of their appliances are connected directly to the cable coming from the pole. You notice that we put so many meters now on the pole.
Yes.
Part of the issue is to forestall that bypass. But we will find some people managing to still bypass that. Nigerians are ingenious and innovative, just that many of them do it in the negative way. Again, like I said, let us focus on supporting the federal government, and I hope they will carry out their promise. Let us focus on metering every single household. Then we talk about the other things that come after that. Because it's a huge challenge. It is easier said than done. Talk is cheap. I can come here and promise you a lot of things, but as an Egba man, in Abeokuta, we don't promise without doing things. That's why I'm measured.
Well, you're already marketing. I'm sure that my friend Ola is going to be talking to you shortly. But let me go to Mr. Yusuf in our Kano studio. So this is where we are now, and you are saying that of the 87,000 meters, you know, there are a good number of people that are going to be benefiting from this. What are the challenges that your DISCO has in Kano that customers need to understand so that they can be sympathetic? Because at the end of the day, if they can see power supply around them and they do not have it, most certainly there's a problem. So what are the challenges you have that your customers in Kano and around need to understand?
Yeah, we have a lot of challenges that our customer needs to know when they see, issues in respect of power supply to their respective premises. Issue of energy theft that already been mentioned by Barrister Oduntan is a big challenge because customers don't want to pay for electricity, and they do bypass their meters. That is for those unmetered, for the metered customers. And that is really affecting the services of our company. And at the same time, also the customers needs to get aware that they need to really, inform us whenever they notice any kind of energy theft from any customer, because that will assist us to improve our services.
All right,
also,
Mr.
the
Yusuf,
issue
just
of
a moment.
vandalism.
Well, just a moment. Let me, because we're running out of time, let me quickly ask Dr. Suleiman the same question. Are those challenges similar with you, Dr. Suleiman, in Kaduna?
Yes, pretty much. But just additionally, given that for us, the deployment strategy is to go end to end, and we seek that our customers cooperate with us as we move to install all these meters on premises that don't have meters. And we're also going to replace obsolete meters in the course of this exercise, because the lifespan of a good meter is 10 years. And as we know, within the network, we have a lot of old Conlog meters that were installed from 2006 that are way more than that 10-year lifespan. So naturally, those meters will be replaced. And all thanks to the initiative put in place, nobody will ask anybody to pay for those meters, whether replaced or not. And we have a robust policy in place to make sure everything goes watertight.
Is it
so
similar? All right. Okay, Dr. Suleiman. Is it similar with you, Mr. Foley?
Yes, we have the same challenges, and that accounts for the reason why you can't really encourage customers to procure their own meters. You know the reason, for security purposes. That's one of the major reasons why they're not allowed to procure their meters, just like you procure your phones. There's also a huge spate of vandalism on our network. There's also assault on staff, and most importantly, there's a party to payment as well. So these are the challenges that we constantly face. But then again, too, we are putting in place some processes to mitigate the challenges that we have.
All right, well, perhaps the important thing here would be to put out significant communication so that there is understanding on the part of the people. But we have to thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. Mr. Mahmoud Suleiman, Head Strategy and Business Excellence, Kaduna Electric. Mr. Felix Ofolwe, Head Corporate Communications, Ikeja Electric. Mr. Abubakar Yusuf, Director, Department of Customer Relations, Kano Disco, as well as Barrister Sunday Odunton, Executive Director, Research and Advocacy, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, ANET. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We're back in a moment. Do stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. Now we move on, and we're going to be looking at solving the import and export challenge. Many Nigerians have expressed outrage over the decision by the federal government to allow Dangote Cement, BUA, and an unnamed gas company, well, BUA is another cement company, and an unnamed gas company to resume exports across the nation's land borders. The borders have been shut since August last year, and the belief is that it would curb smuggling, especially of commodities like rice and tomatoes. We will look at this closely this morning, and it's my pleasure to welcome to the studio Mr. Lucky Amiwero, a member, reconstituted Presidential Task Force on Nigeria Customs Reforms. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
And two gentlemen will be joining us via Zoom, Mr. Joseph Atta, National Public Relations Officer, Nigeria Customs Service. Good morning. As well as Mr. Greg Ogwefon, former President, Ship Owners Association of Nigeria. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Let me start with the bird that we have in hand in the studio with us, Mr. Amiwero. When this exemption was made by government, was any particular reason given?
I don't think there's any particular, but let me try to correct one impression.
Yes.
We have 3 entry points, legal entry points.
Okay.
Seaport, airport, and the border stations. Mm-hmm. And those
land borders.
Land borders. Yeah. They are local legal entry points. Those are entry points that are allowable when cargoes can come in and go through the process. Most of the borders you have in Nigeria have scanners and all infrastructure to actually assess clearance. And for any restriction to be made, you must comply with Section 18 of the Custom and Excise Management Act, which is actually domiciled in the office of the Minister of Finance. He regulates that. No other agency does that. We don't know how this one was regulated. It is not custom that we do it. And when we say there are legal entry points, that means it's for trading communities. You know that the one that happened last time, we've not been able to lay hands on the circular because it must comply with the law. And when we are talking about legal entry points, we have two types of trade within the border. We have trade liberalization and common external tariffs for third countries and originating cargoes from the other neighboring countries, which actually you have other people who are involved in trading. So, by the provision of Section 42, subsection 1(2), that Constitution says you cannot discriminate against anybody in terms of trade and every other thing. So, and if you are going to give that preferential treatment, we don't know under what law, because you don't need to restrict anybody by the provisions of the Constitution, Section 42, subsection 1(b). It is very clear. Well, if it's legal entry point and there's going to be restriction by the provision of Section 18 of the Custom and Excise Management Act, the minister will issue directive, not central bank. Central bank is for monetary policy. The minister is for fiscal policies. I think there has been a kind of confusion over central bank taking over the work of the ministry and all the rest. The provisions of the law is very clear. Fiscal policies are for the minister. He regulates. And restriction of cargo is not from the CG, it's from the minister. She regulates it.
Is there any specific reason that you can adduce for the exemption given to these three organizations?
Government should do that.
I'm just talking from your own. You are a member of the Presidential Task Force on the Nigeria Customs Reform, so you probably have maybe an understanding that may not be popular.
I think the whole thing has been either on smuggling, on to develop our local industries, on rice and some other things. And this thing can be done. If you look at America, America actually have an MOU with 81 countries in the world. We call those things mutual administrative assistance. Nigeria is a contracting party to that assistance. For instance, we're supposed to have gone into agreement with Togo, with Benin Republic. We have 3 of that mutual administrative assistance. And that mutual administrative assistance, that means the other countries will support you in terms of curbing smuggling and oppressing anything that is going to come into your country. America have MOU with 81 countries. So if you are trying to take care of your borders, America have done that. You don't see any of these countries closing their borders. What they have done, they are going to those agreements so that you can now, give the mutual assistance to other countries to assist you in trying to solve your problems in terms of smuggling and all the rest. That is what is done all over the world. It's a convention. Okay. And you have 3 conventions on that.
All right, Mr. Atta, you are of the Customs Service, so perhaps there is a reason you can give to the people to understand the rationale for that decision? Okay, he's not ready. Okay, well, Mr. Greg Ogbefun, you also operate in the same industry, and would you say this position of government is a way to go to resume import-export, in Nigeria, which of course I don't think it ever stopped at the seaports because we still imported fuel and a number of other things, into the country. But are these challenges also peculiar? Are they peculiar to land borders, or you think that there are some other issues with the seaports as well that people are not aware of?
Thank you very much. I would like to answer your question from a different perspective. There were issues before the borders were closed, and there were reasons why the borders were closed. From a layman's perspective, the land borders were closed to curtail smuggling and other improper activities. After the borders were closed, the objectives for which they were closed, were they achieved? That's a question to ask. Now, there was a lot of excitement initially when the borders were closed. One, it was expected that it would stimulate in-country development of the agricultural sector. and make the farmers have a stay in the industry. Initially, that appeared to be the case. But today, you'll agree with me that the pain of border closure is felt when you go to the market to buy a bag of rice. That means that after closing the borders, there was no well-articulated approach towards helping the farmers close the gap created by the goods that were no longer coming in by land. That's one. Today, the price increase will make it look like it's wise to open up the borders again and let these goods start to come in so that prices can come down. That is what the average person will say to you. But I want to seek your indulgence to take it a little bit outside this realm of discussion. Why is the issue of border closing or opening more important than the fact that in this country, 100% of our exports, dry and liquid, are carried by foreign ships? We are in a country where over 1 million barrels of oil is exported daily, and all of these are carried by foreign ships. Now, if you look at the imports, we're a major importer of finished goods. About 100% of the global trading ships that bring this are foreign. I think that for me, as the former president of the Ship Owners Association, that's where I think we need to be looking at. We're in a situation where we are concerned with youth unemployment. Now, before the demise of the Nigerian National Shipping Line in 1995, we had a very robust fleet that was trading globally. At a point, this country had 29 ships trading globally. So at least we participated in the carriage of imports particularly. Now, besides the economic benefit, look at the huge employment opportunities that abound in that place, flying the national flag. And today, nothing, zero. For me, I think the emphasis right now is to see how we can begin to take ownership of the freighting of our imports and our exports before worrying too much about whether borders were opened discretionarily for certain companies or others. I would like to stop there at the moment.
Well, Mr. Joseph Atta, that conversation came to you earlier as to the rationale concerning, the rationale for allowing just 3 organizations in Nigeria to resume, exports at the borders, as opposed to so many others that most certainly are in the business of import and export in Nigeria. Any specific rationale for those exemptions? All right, well, he has since departed again. Yes. But, okay, well, Mr. Amiwero, one of the issues that a number of people are also bringing into this space is that of the AfCFTA agreement that Nigeria has signed and ratified for takeoff in the next less than 2 months from now. Do you think we are ready?
Well, we are not ready. You see, I don't know if it has been sent to National Assembly. If it has not gone to Assembly, then you have not rectified it. Because by the provisions of the Constitution, it must go to the National Assembly. It's not to be rectified by a minister. The provision of the Constitution is that any convention, any treaty must go to the Assembly for rectification, or else it can never be law, local law. It must be domesticated. Rectification is not done in the presidency. Rectification is done at the National Assembly for it to be rectified by the president finally. That is that. When you are looking at trade in Nigeria is hampered by our procedures. Our procedures is bedeviled with lengthy and cumbersome nature, whereby we don't have the tools. And our import trade actually needs a lot of reform. I've written to the presidency, I think they are working in that direction. If you look at our concession of our ports, we are concessioning a port that we don't have a law. Our port are concession, they are not concession, they are leased. As at now, we don't have a concession law. So we have a mixed bag of system in our country. If you look at our procedure, we have a port that doesn't have scanners. And we entered into a contract as a contracting party to implement the Kyoto Convention and the FAO Convention and the SAFE framework. And all these things have to do with trade facilitation, which is actually tied to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and the FTA. All what you are talking about, the free trade agreement, is moving goods into a country. And if you look at Nigeria, for instance, we are disadvantaged. We don't have the tools to move our goods. We have a gridlock that have taken us almost close to 12 years. We cannot move those things out of that place because of procedures. Custom and excise is 3 components. You are talking about custom is not the people. Custom is import and export. Excise is manufacturing. That means import, export, and manufacturing. You have 4 layers of the SEMA. SEMA is not custom document. SEMA is the economic document that is proclaimed by the president, regulated by the minister. Then you have directives are given by the board, and implementation is done by the custom service. This 3 whole thing is that what are the procedures we have in the port today? We don't have scanners. We don't have a procedure, evaluation, in all the whole things. SEMA is a convention. We have more than 100 conventions in the SEMA. For everything you see there, our conventions we have gone into for 1962, 1973. SEMA is not the normal document you see in the National Assembly. You don't just go and pass SEMA, National Assembly. SEMA is a convention you have rectified, domesticated in Nigerian law to bring about the operations in the economy. If you look at after the Constitution, the next document that is more important in this country is SEMA. And SEMA is regulated by the minister, implemented by customs, directed by the board. And there is a provision in that SEMA, under section 4.3, which gave the power of the board to nullify anything customs have done. The problem is we are having now, we are going into a system which we are not prepared for. What are our procedures in the port? I wrote to the presidency, they replied, we are looking at all we operate one of the most expensive ports in the world. Critically expensive.
Expensive and costly to maintain?
Cost and very lengthy and cumbersome procedure. And inefficient? Inefficient.
Okay. All right.
A port without a scanner?
Mr. Atta, are you with us now?
No, I think you may want to invite Mr. Tony Wabunike, who is the national president of our Association of Nigerian Licensed Customs Agents. He has also just joined us virtually.
Okay, Mr. Wabunike, I was going to ask about this Africa Trade Agreement, which we are party to, and which should take off any moment now. I'm sure that all the countries who signed this agreement are looking to Nigeria because we have a huge population and therefore a huge market for their products and services. And they are looking forward to this whole business taking off. But Mr. Amiwero here has just told us that we're not ready for it. So how is that going to work out when this thing takes off? When Nigeria, with the largest population in the sub-Saharan region, is not ready to actually partake in an agreement to which it is a party?
Okay, well, Mr. Wabunike, that was supposed to be for you, but maybe you want to take that, when we return from this break. So please stay with us. All right, we're back now. Mr. Tony Wabunike, a question was asked of you the other time. You want to take it to him again?
Yes, Mr. Wabunike. This Africa Trade Agreement that's supposed to take off in about 2 months. Nigeria has a population of about 200 million. And I'm sure African countries are looking and are raring to enter this huge market which we provide for their products and services. So what's going to happen when this thing takes off? Because Mr. Amiwero has told us here that we don't seem to be ready. How is it going to look when it takes off and the biggest market is not even prepared? Meanwhile, they have signed the agreement.
Okay, let me start by saying that Africa trade, this thing is a problem for Nigerians because Nigeria is actually not ready like the last. If we are ready, why we should actually close the borders. We don't have any other international countries near us. The big problem to say that after is going to take place, and Nigeria is a big market. So I think federal government of Nigeria should rethink of reopening the border post to start with.
All the while, if I can just take you on that one question before we return to this after conversation. That exemption given, Mr. Atta, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Joseph Atta. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, he's not there. So, Mr. Ogbeifo, we haven't taken... Oh, you can... Mr. Joseph Atta, can you hear me now? Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us now? Can you hear me, Mr. Joseph Atta? Just please unmute the mic and leave it there. We can hear you if you just unmute the mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. So that
yes, a very good morning to you all.
Yes, thank you. So that exemption given to those companies, was there a rationale for making that exemption and not making it open-ended to so many other importers and exporters? Oh dear. Okay, well, we'll hope for that he'll be able to get that right. Let's go back to Mr. Ogbeifun. So, Mr. Ogbeifun, this Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, area agreement that Nigeria has signed and ratified, a couple of gentlemen that have spoken about it say, we are not ready. Now, if we are going to solve the import and export challenge in Nigeria, given the population, the market size of Nigeria, as my colleague has mentioned, and given all of the things that we have to do, given our huge dependence on importation as opposed to being a producing country that exports, are we ready for AfCFTA? Mr. Ogbeifun, that's for you. Okay, well, as technology. So perhaps we can't say we're not ready for technology, but then we're going to have to employ technology when it comes to AfCFTA. Now, you talked about a number of things. One of the things that you talked about is our processes, but then a number of people have also talked about our producing capacity in order to be a huge beneficiary as a nation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. So if we are not ready, in what area are we not ready? You've talked about the processes. How about production?
You see, production, when you look at what is production, production is all about building capacity for the domestic industries. And how do you build capacities? If you look at, we are talking about light, we are talking about water, we are talking about fuel. When you look at the way you run your industry here, you spend more money running the industries here. So you go to Ghana, they have a 24 hours light. So that is a disadvantage.
And when you're talking about free trade agreement, that means your country, Africa is a global village. The implication there is that we can move from Africa, from Nigeria to Ghana. From anywhere, we can move cargo. So when you see people like Man and other people trying to, maybe they are a little bit hamstrung in trying to support the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, it's as a result of infrastructures we have in the country. What is our life situation? You compare, go and look at the impact between Ghana and Nigeria. The life situation. How many hours do light stay in Nigeria and how many hours do light stay in Ghana? That, you look at the cost. You run the cost, you look at that. And look at that and run it for 1 year. And you see what it costs a manufacturer to run for that 1 year. So when you run a factory in Nigeria and you run that factory, the same product, you find it cheaper from there to Nigeria. So when we say we are not ready, it is not political. It's not politicians to go and rectify. It's for us to be able to reform our system. Because, you see, it is not all about going to get revenue. It's all about to be able to see how we can get investment, to attract foreign direct investment and try to build our capacity. That is what we are lacking. A lot of things, if you look at our infrastructures, we are lacking there. Where are the roads? Look at our ports. A clustered, but you have a gridlock for almost close to 9 years. We have not been able to solve that problem. You go into the port, it costs you so much. So you have the three components of trade facilitation, which is consistency, predictability, and transparency. It is not applied in this country. So we have a huge gap. It's not a political issue. It's a professional issue. It's an issue of experts to look at these things. We have a faulty procedure. We have infrastructure problem. If you are looking at going to free trade agreement, where are your infrastructure? Where are your lights? Where are your roads? For instance, you want to push cargo from the port. You have an import. You are moving it from the port to Ikeja. When you move to go to Ghana, one day you've cleared. You take 30 days to clear from here. You take 40 days to clear here. So these are the issues where we say we are not ready. It is not sitting down in Abuja and we rectify. It's for us to go in and reform our system in anticipation of the expected. The expected is that we have two tools, two conventions, the African Free Trade and the Trade Facilitation Agreement. Those two tools are talking about opening your borders within African sub-region and within the world. And are we ready? We are not ready. We are not going to be playing politics because these people will leave and the professionals will be there going through these problems. We need to look at our procedures. What is customs? Once customs signed the Kyoto Convention, the Kyoto Convention is about simplification and harmonization of procedures. Is customs doing that?
And we haven't done that.
No, we have not done that. We have strike force, we have this force, we have that force. And when people come in and see you behaving like that, they will run away. They will not want to, they will start to, because when you sign and rectify it, you make the country, people will have access to your, that is free trade. That means we come in, we trade together. And it's moving up personnel, moving up so many things. And you find out that this place will just be empty. So we must reform our system. Okay. We must reform it.
Do you foresee that the border will have to be open?
The border is legal entry point, for God's sake. The border is not a smuggling center. It's a place where you have scanners, you have everything. Like I've told you, what is done in all over the world. Do you see anybody closing border all over the world? It's just Nigerians don't go through systems. We cannot be operating a system of 1947 where you have a system of 2020. What you have, America have 81 mutual administrative. Nigeria signed with America. You cannot load any of their things here without them being involved.
But then there is the issue of illegal. You
cannot call it. You see, the problem is that have we signed it?
No. I'm just talking about another, conversation right now because
yes?
You've talked about the legal, entry points and
yes.
land borders that, customs people
yes.
are there and all of that. But then there is also the need for conversations with border communities.
No, you see, you don't need border communities. What you need is mutual administrative assistance. There are 3 conventions. One on trans-border crime, one on suppression of customs investigation and the other one on custom matters. There are 3, okay. Which other countries are using. And what that means that if, for instance, Benin Republic and Nigeria,
We go into a mutual agreement. And once you go into that agreement, Benin Republic will be held responsible if there's any problem.
You believe that we need to work on our customs procedures?
We need to work on international customs procedures.
Okay, well, Mr. Joseph Atta, you just heard that. Now, you want to quickly respond to it if you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
The question of whether we are ready. The question of whether we are ready for AfCFTA or not, and whether trade facilitation in line with the Kyoto Convention is being implemented or not, it's being approached from one particular perspective, which should not be. For instance, the Kyoto Convention places obligations on stakeholders too. It's not just about customs. Customs is expected to facilitate trade, to easing the path of clearance and all that. But that will be dependent largely on the readiness of stakeholders to be compliant. The facilitation is not for uncompliant trade. It's not for illegitimate trade. In a client, the stakeholders are like trade facilitation is made easy for the customs operatives to implement. Having said that, let me quickly go to the reissue, which is that of AfCFTA, and whether we are ready. I think it's important to look at the threats that AfCFTA is likely to bring. I know that the National Action Committee, which customs is some studies.
It's gone mute again. But let's.
Can you hear me?
Okay, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. I am aware that the National Action Committee, which, by the way, we are actively represented. The customs has a very seasoned senior officer in that committee. Came up, undertook a study and came up with 7 threats, possible threats that the AfCFTA is likely to come along with. And these threats include abuse of rules of origin, smuggling, loss of revenue, negative impact on local production. Of course, free movement of goods and persons could portend some threats to national security, dumping, and influx of substandard goods. These are the 7 threats that we are identified. I think what is important now is to come up with safeguards. How do we deal with this threat? Because they say a problem well defined is half solved. Is to come up with safeguards to deal with these 7 threats. And if we're able to do that, then we are good to go. But more importantly, I think whether we are ready or not, the answer should be a cautious yes. Because some members of the some members, countries like Morocco and Egypt and other countries have developed their production skills. And if we did not up our games, they could just easily take advantage of our population and the market potentials that Nigeria holds. So what is important is to take necessary actions to up our game, to be in position where our
Mr. Atta, just a moment. You talked about those safeguards, and I think it's important for us to even find out the safeguards that we had ab initio. Were they effective? And what are the things that we need to do to ensure that they are effective? Because if they were effective, why would we need to close the borders? But we'll take all of that on when we come back from this break.
Would hold at the Radisson Blue Hotel, 38 to 49 Isaac John Street, GRA, Ikeja, Lagos, on the 15th and 16th of November. Attendance is both physical and virtual. Please note, COVID-19 protocol shall be duly observed. Itesiwaju Eko, Ajumose Wani.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Well, Mr. Atta, so to that question very quickly before we go to Mr. Ogbeifun. If the processes and procedures were okay and the safeguards were there all the while, how come we needed to close the borders to mitigate smuggling?
Well, that's what I said earlier. You see, unfortunately, in Nigeria, we are quick to make references to other crimes. And we fail to ask ourselves whether our level of compliance, our level of adherence to the rules are as high as stakeholders of those same crimes. It takes two to tango. When we talk about implementation of Kyoto Convention, when we talk about enforcing the safeguards, it's not about the security agent or the law enforcer alone. It's about the willingness of stakeholders, the willingness of other practitioners in the industry to generally comply with the rules. A situation where
reason that we have, just a moment, Mr. Atta, the reason we have legal law enforcement officers, just a moment, Mr. Atta, the reason we have law enforcement officers is because the law, the system, the nation anticipated that there would be people who would want to circumvent the process. Now that the customs is there to ensure that that does not happen or is not sustained, how come those safeguards were not effective enough to mitigate those issues that would arise?
Okay, let's take the example of the border closure you are making reference to, for instance. There are laws governing trans-border trade. There is also an existing law, which is, of course, supposed to give us lessons, guiding us as we advance towards AfCFTA. That is the ETLS, the ECOWAS Protocol on Transit and all that. All these rules have been there. Customs have also been there, charged with the responsibility of enforcing these rules. But over a period of time, there have been deliberate attempts by stakeholders to frustrate efforts geared towards effective implementation of this. Sometimes even with the active connivance of our neighbors. And a lot of things have to be done. Engagement, strategic engagement at the level of customs administration within the region.
And a number of other people, Mr. Atta,
engagement.
A number of other people would also say sometimes with the connivance of some of your officers, but then I want to believe that there are internal systems in place to ensure that that is not sustained. But let me go to Mr. Ogbeifun. I tried to ask the other time, but they, network kind of froze. What's your take on the level of our preparedness, Mr. Greg Ogbeifun, for AfCFTA when it eventually takes off?
Well, I think the development of Nigeria assenting to the African Trade Agreement is a very, very good one. It's a very positive step. It obviously helps us to be confronted with the challenges that are rising by the fact that we don't have the infrastructure to, at this time, effectively participate in that trade. So it just makes us realize that here is a huge market that we can economically and socio-economically benefit from, but we are not ready. I mean, you can imagine what it was like in the days of National Line if right now we had 29 ships that will key into this opportunity. We only have the continent. Okay, we don't have it now, but we can start to do something. Now, there is an initiative which is very commendable. Now, it's called the Sea-Link Trade Initiative, which is very, very aggressively driven by Nexim Bank and a government agency, I think Nigerian Shippers Council. Now, what are they doing? They've come out to say, look, we don't have our own national assets to participate in this trade, but we can syndicate assets. They have come to the ship owners associations and said, listen, there is an opportunity for trade here. If you have any ships, barges, whatsoever that can participate in any aspect of this trade, bring them in. Let's syndicate them in and see how we can get into this business. I think we should see this as a great opportunity for us to revisit the idea of re-establishing our own national fleet, either privately.
Mr. Wayfon, I'm sorry, we've run completely out of time. I'm sorry, we've run completely out of time. Mr. Greg Ogwefun, former president, Shipowners Association of Nigeria, who joined us via Zoom, as well as Mr. Tony Nwabunike, National President, Association of Nigerian Licensed Customs Agents, ANLCA, as well as Mr. Joseph Atta, National Public Relations Officer, Nigeria Customs Service, all three who joined us via Zoom, as well as Mr. Lucky Amiwero, member, reconstituted Presidential Task Force on Nigeria Customs Reforms, who was with us in our studio in Lagos. Thank you very much to all of you gentlemen for coming to shed more light on this topic. And we hope that talking about this today will urge us on to get ourselves prepared for the taking off of the AfCFTA. Thank you very much. Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.
All right. As Nigerians continue to make giant strides across the globe, that saying that Nigerians are among the best in the world has proven not to be a cliche once again. Recently, a Nigerian teacher, Olasunkanmi Okpeifa, made the top 10 finalists of the Global Teacher Prize 2020. He joins us from okay, that's, oh God, there should have been a sound effect to that.
Drum roll.
Tony, come on, please stop that. Olasunkanmi Okpeifa joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, this must feel really, really good, doesn't it?
Sure.
I don't even know how to begin. You know, everyone, most people, most young people in particular will probably say, no, I don't want to be a teacher. And here you are, being one. What started that out for you in the first place?
Take that again.
Can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Okpeifa, can you hear me?
Hello, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, I said, you know, most young people would say they don't want to go into teaching, but there you are, and even now, a Global Teacher Prize. What started out the conversation for you in the first place, the interest in teaching?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Nigerians. I am Olasunkanmi Okpeifa said, and I'm glad to be here. I am a teacher by excellence, and I'm glad to be representing my country. I started very early in life, and I can say, answering that question straight, is what I can call self-discovery. While I was just in primary 3, that was at age 8, I discovered this innate ability, this nature of wanting to explain things all over again, doing things in different way, describing things in a unique way for people. And from then, I discovered that I think this part of teaching is my own area. Yeah, growing up in the suburb of Lagos State, nobody really around except for one headmistress on our street who used to be a teacher, and then everybody respected her so much. But not really that there was any motivation out there. I can say that I was internally motivated, and I discovered myself very early. And I said, no, this is my field, this is my area, this is where I can be fulfilled. And it's just that for me.
Did your parents have anything to say about that when you chose to become a teacher?
Yeah, of course. At the beginning, it wasn't funny with my father. At the beginning, my father was like, you want to be a teacher? And then I remember when I was in GS1, he reported me to this teacher on the street. And then she was like, So come me, you want to be a teacher? Okay, shake me. I couldn't do that, of course, because of respect. I couldn't shake her. But sometime in 2009, when one of the head of state, I think General Abdulsalami Abubakar, increased the teacher's salary, my father heard of that and was like, boy, come here. You want to be a teacher? Within your stature, what class will you teach? I said, well, maybe primary school. But when I got to GS3, I was like, I'll take junior secondary school. When I got to senior secondary school, I said, no, I think I could still teach senior secondary school. So my father, from then on, encouraged me. I remember when I was to fill my UME form, now UTME, he told my elder brother that if he teacher Sibe, he said teacher means put teaching job for him. He didn't know whether it was a teaching or education, but he just mandated him that it must be education for me. And he encouraged me from then on. In my family anyway, we believe in self-discovery. Whatever you have chosen in life, my father will always pursue it for you because he believes that that is where destiny will take you to.
Well, you have won the Global Teacher Prize and the VARCE Foundation, by the VARCE Foundation, which is in partnership with the UNESCO. When did that journey begin and what was the process? How tedious or comfortable was it?
The journey, well, started in 2008 for me as a teacher, but the application I filled was 2020. I remember in 2018, my wife saw the application online and told me, nominated me. But because I felt I had not won any award at any level, not even in that school level or local government level, I felt, wow, global level, please, let's leave this. She pushed me and I pretended as if I was filling the form until the time elapsed. And then on, in 2018, I won the best teacher in Nigeria under Multina Teacher of the Year. Then I felt, wow, if I could, from just a classroom teacher in one corner in Abuja here, jump up to this level at a national level, I think I could take the world too. So in 2019, when the application was out for 2020, I checked it out, and first thing I did was to look at all the questions and look at the weak point of the question. I read the stories of other top 50 and top 10, and I felt, no, I think I'm also in line with these two. So there were about 11 questions bordering on your teaching style in the classroom, your story, your dedication, your resilience as a teacher, how you make your students and global citizens, and the rest. So I answered these very well, narrating my story. And March 19, before the lockdown, we were announced as top 50. And it moved on like that. Of course, we were not told what we were actually looking for. That's the body, VARCE Foundation. There were judges on it. And some months ago, I think precisely 4 weeks now, not even up to 4 weeks now, I was announced as top 10 in the world. And it's a big one for me because, and for Nigeria, because this is the first time Nigeria will take this award out of Kenya. For the past 6 years now, it has always been in Kenya. And for the first time now, Nigeria is even leading West Africa as the first country in West Africa to be placed on top 10.
So, Kome, you are among the 10 best teachers in the world. So when will the best teacher in the world actually be picked?
From what we heard, by December 3rd, the winner will be unveiled.
By December
3rd of December.
Well, we wish you all the best, but as Ayo said, you know, when this segment started, that not many children would want to be teachers. What would be your advice? You know, when we were growing up, teachers were a special breed. They had the respect of the entire community. I mean, they were looked at as people who molded children's futures. But not so today. Teachers are looked down upon. But here you are doing great things. So what advice would you give to younger people who may be toying with the idea of becoming teachers?
Well, truly, the teaching job has lost its glory. And I, with other friends of mine who have chosen to be teachers, have determined that in our lifetime, the glory will be restored. So to young ones out there, I once decided to be a teacher. Sincerely, then growing up, I felt nobody wanted to be a teacher. I was the only one that wanted to be a teacher. But recently, I've discovered so many young people in Nigeria who actually felt, no, this is my own field too. And they had even called me, I should mentor them, we should do things together. So to those ones who are nursing it, don't worry. The teaching job is heavily fulfilling. Yeah, the money may not be there now, practically, but I believe very soon things are changing. Please, let's come together. There is a language in the 21st century now, and that is collaboration. When we come together and we pull a very strong force and we stand out among others, I believe the respect will be restored. I don't have any reason to doubt anybody looking down at me. No. I believe I am a teacher. I mold destiny. I build this nation. I see myself that way. So as you are coming to this field, as you are thinking about it, please don't be deterred. Don't be discouraged. Just come into it. Have a very positive, a good mindset of your positive mindset of yourself. Stand out, do your work with diligence, and you will discover that in no time you will stand before kings and not just ordinary men. So I'm calling out, please let's collaborate together and let's come together and make this country a great nation through education.
And what has been the experience teaching children? Because, I mean, some people, you know, when they go teaching classes, the kind of experiences that they have can be quite challenging. So for you, what has been the experience? What's been the feedback you get from your students, from their parents, and all like that?
The experience I have gotten so far has been encouraging. And because as a teacher, as a person, as a young man, I have decided in life that anything short of excellence is not for me. I learned growing up that an average life is a decorated failure. So be the best. So as a teacher, I have chosen to be the best at this. So anything I can lay my hands on that will make me a better teacher, I do. So the experience has been very interesting, I must tell you. Yeah, there are challenges in it. Some of us with this beautiful stature may get to look down, but we don't even look at that anyway. It has been very interesting. But one thing I just noticed is I have a very high level of creativity. No matter the class I enter, I just need to observe the students for just like 5 to 10 minutes to know who they are, and then I will teach them at that level. And in no time, we blend together. The method I use in the classroom has also made me to stand out very well. The experience has been positive, has been wonderful. I can tell you that since I joined the teaching profession, my result has always been on the positive side, on the very, very good side. So it has been very interesting. Yeah, the teaching job is not meant for everybody. If you don't have the skill, if you don't have the passion, if you don't have the dedication, of course, you can't weather the storm. There are a lot of things you are going to go through. But beyond that, once you have the passion, you have the dedication there, you can just find your way around all the challenges, and there you are.
How's one of the most important things you need to teach is patience, which many people don't have. But we have to thank you very much, Mr. Olasokomi Opaifa, and we wish you the very best. Especially
on December 3rd.
Yes, this $1 million is quite something. So good luck and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're back in a moment. Do stay with us.
Okay. Welcome back. And this is the home stretch. And it's my pleasure to welcome an Africa Magic Viewers Choice Award winner. A former, Big Brother participant, and I think she placed second or something. I think she was the runner-up. And she's an actor, she's a producer, she's a television presenter.
And a radio presenter.
And a radio presenter, and we can go on and on and on. Have you guessed who it is? Oh, you haven't? Well, Bisola Ayeola is our Artist of the Week this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Why are you blushing in red?
Just all the accolades. I'm like, wow, me? Really?
We haven't even started.
Well, they're all the things that you've done.
We haven't even started.
Yeah, I'm blushing. Thank you very much.
And you're blushing in red.
And you're used to being in front of the camera, so what's your problem?
I am, but it's just, when you have...
Oh, is that me they're talking about?
Yes. It felt so good.
But you're an actor, and you're a producer, and you won the Africa Magic Viewers Choice.
I think one of the things that she's struggling with is she's always had to be the one to introduce people.
Yes.
Now to be the one to be introduced is intimidating. You haven't even started. But anyway, just go on.
It's good to meet you, Bisola.
Thank you for having me.
Wow. You have done a lot of things in your lifetime, in your very short lifetime.
Somewhat, yes.
And all I can say is congratulations on all these things that you have done. We were watching Boda Luku there.
Yes.
What was that all about?
Okay, so when I was much younger, I remember, I think I was about 3-4 years old, just very faint memories I have of my dad. And I remember he always said my cheeks were always shaking every time I walked. So he would tell me, I remember him always saying, lefu, rete, lefu, and that I should keep doing that. And every time he was laughing at my cheeks shaking. So when I got to work with Ade, when I heard the beats, that was all that was coming to my head. Lefu, rete, lefu, and I'm like, okay, let's just work with this. And that was how Bodaluku was born.
Well, your dad must have been a fan of, was it Jacob and Papilolo? Because I mean,
you must have been plump when you were little.
I was.
For your cheeks to be shaking as you walked.
Well, I'm still plump, so my cheeks still shake when...
Well, you know, that part.
Yeah.
Okay, so your trip up until now must have been quite an adventure for you.
Yes.
As Alero said, I've seen some of your acting, and my wife would probably be listening and say, perhaps even, I don't know, what's that game? That signature thing? Autographs. They don't sell in Nigeria. They don't sell in Nigeria, do they?
Well, some children still believe in collecting them.
What children?
In the hope that one day it will be worth something.
Okokomaiko or Ajegunle? I'm just asking. So, where did that...
No,
for you, the acting, radio producing and presenting, television producing and presenting, where did it start?
I had always known I wanted to be in entertainment from when I was 13. And there was a particular incident that happened. I was switching schools, and my mom was talking to the principal, and the principal asked me, because it was a terminating class, JSS3. I said, oh, okay. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, an entertainer. And my mom gave me one heavy knock on my head. She gave me one really heavy knock. I can't forget that moment. So it was then I knew I always wanted to be in entertainment, but it was music first. There was Project Fame in 2008, but before then I used to do a little bit of backup singing for some artists in Surulere. Wow. But then Project Fame came, and that was like my first stint at Fame. It was hard. Music still is very hard. So kudos to all artists out there. I don't know how they stay relevant. It's a lot of work, a lot of money as well. But it was while on Project Fame, I got to work with Mommy J and Sijoke Silva. And she used to give us little exercises on acting. And then after the show, I got feedback from some of the content directors and the DPs there that, look, Bisola, you should give acting a shot. And that was how I got my first role in a Yoruba series, Sababi. And then...
Is your Yoruba that good?
Well, so it's
her name is Yoruba.
Yeah, I'm Yoruba. So, I understand it, but sometimes my speaking can be funny sometimes. So I have to, especially when you're reading in Yoruba, that was a bit of a task.
Reading Yoruba is a task.
It was such a task.
It's difficult.
I don't understand what... Anyway, I can understand you, but you...
excuse me.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Well, there are many of us.
I have lived in Lagos practically all my life, so I speak fluent Yoruba, but I find it difficult to read Yoruba.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So, the next interview is going to be...
Oko. They're all okay.
Do you want me to shock you? There's this fellow, German, many years ago. He said that there's a language, there's a dialect in Yoruba land, in Ogun State specifically, that they have their name, a particular word in present tense, past tense, and past participle. I said, which one was that? He just said, give an example. Bisola, shote panoye. Metikpo, afralaku, pa, po, u. Anyway, so back to the acting thing. Yeah. I have enjoyed, I have to be honest, the Skinny Girl in Transit, particularly your own role. I don't know why you didn't get the role, but maybe you weren't so skinny. But the thing about that, you have moved from acting to music to presenting. How easy is that transition?
I wouldn't. It's not been easy, but I think it's all about having the right team to work with. When I was on radio, it was very difficult juggling the acting with it. So that was I had to leave radio to focus on the acting. With music as well, the good thing with music is that you could schedule studio times and times you can record, and it's not like whatever you record is what goes out immediately. You can have like banks of music, but I just have a good team with me that somewhat helps balance my life at home and at work as well.
We'll come to that.
All right, Bisola. We'll just go on a short break, come back and continue this brilliant conversation that we're having. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We still have Bisola Ayeola with us as our Artiste of the Week.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's go way, way, way back. What did you study in school?
So I never went to university. Just my secondary education.
Where?
Our Lady of Apostles Yaba Federal Government Girls College Ikpetumodu in Osho State. I did have a little diploma course in broadcasting when I wanted to work with women's
broadcasting
radio.
is still related. Thank you, Lord. Finally, we have somebody who is doing something related to what she studied.
Otherwise,
normally
she
we
wouldn't
have
even
engineers who are singing
and veterinary.
Yeah, but I had always wanted to be in entertainment, so I guess that was why that happened. I still want to study a little bit of filmmaking, be a director on directing and producing as well. Maybe even take some courses on acting as well, because you never know it all. So that is one thing. I actually had planned that for this year, but COVID said no. So
you've been very busy because
Yes,
we were just watching clips from one of your movies there. So what next?
So this month, November 27th, a movie ITK Introducing the Kujus is going to be out in cinemas. And it's the first project I've worked on as a producer, a co-producer. I have learned so much because usually I'm always in front of the camera. I just, okay, act, read your script, you're done, on to the next.
Action,
yes,
cut.
on to the next project. But with this one, I've worked with, and it's a film, my management company, Temple Management, asked me, like, Bisola, you've always said you want to do a lot in this filmmaking industry. Would you be a co-producer on this? And when he said yes, I was like, okay, fine. Let's give this a shot. I was so nervous, but I've learned so much. I'm still learning. It's a lot of work. Now I really respect and appreciate producers from the EPs, everybody behind the scenes. They're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
wow.
Thank
so
you.
yes.
Why are you taking a bow? Are you a producer?
Yes, I am. Who just happens to present?
What is good? Yes, we're all doing everything. It's all part of the production work.
Okay, now, one of the things that, we're running out of time, but one of the things that so many people need in this industry, Alera was just telling you, and I think I alluded to that as well, that most of the time, you don't get to watch these things because it was sickening years ago. More and more people are coming in now. Perhaps that puts a little more responsibility on those who are doing it right to mentor other people so that the trajectory of excellence can continue. Yes. Do you have any plan to creating a mentoring system, or is there such a thing as a mentoring system in entertainment?
Well, there's always a mentoring system. It's probably just, we probably just don't have that body that says, okay, yes, this is a mentoring system or a school to mentor people and all of that. But for everything I know now, I have learned from people that have already been in the business. Like now, the director for ITK, Biodo Stephen Oladigbo, is a director, script writer, producer as well, and she has taught me so much. Aside acting, now in this producing business, so I would call her like a mentor of sorts. I think for everybody that is in the filmmaking industry, we just need to broaden our minds, open it up, because I find that so many things that I ask a lot of questions while filming, from what lens it is we're using to the production manager, or how do you get this location, and all of it has come together to help me now while making ITK. So I think everybody can be a mentor to somebody one way or the other without actually knowing it, but it's important that we all open our minds to learning every time.
Very quick one. What was the culture shock for you in production?
Well, There's no particular one. Everything was a shock. everything. Like now, because Film One is distributing for us, having these meetings with them, sitting down with them and seeing how hard they work. I always just felt like I would just do our film, give it to them in cinema and then let them play it. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. So it's everything. I would say everything, from scripting to actual filming to creating content for digital, everything.
And then there will be the shock of the marketing part as well.
Like, I have learned so much, too much. I'm like, I didn't know this is what happens. Like, but I like it. It's interesting. It's scary. I'm nervous half the time, but I'm working with amazing people, and I just hope that everyone will come out to watch this beautiful movie that we've created.
Meet the Kujus?
Introducing the Kujus.
Introducing the Kujus. Bisola Ayeola, thank you very much for coming. It's been so nice talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Multi-talented actor. Or should I say multi-talented singer? Which one should I pick?
Or multi-talented presenter. Or multi-talented producer.
Lady.
Oh, lady.
Thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you so
And
much for
Bisola winds up Sunrise for this day, the 14th day of November 2020. We'll be with you again next Saturday with a fresh edition. I'm wishing you all the best. I'm Alero Edu.
And I'm Ayo Makine. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.